Hello.
If it isn't Simon the World Traveller.
I mean, world is an exaggeration, isn't it?
Well, Italy's in the world.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't want to be accused of being a pedant, but...
Do you think you have to travel the entirety of the world to be described a world traveller?
Well, I think when you... well, not the entirety of it, but a world traveller, I sort of think that you've, been... that more than one place and more than one continent, maybe. I don't know, I'm making that up.
Yeah, I mean, you are, but that's okay. We all make everything up. That's thoughts.
That's living.
Language.
That's being alive. This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
Hey, are you feeling nice and relaxed? Are you happy and you settled back in Coventry?
I am Coventry.
I didn't mean to make it sound like dysentery then. That was just an accident. I was just being jocular with the number of...
Vowels.
Vowels. Oh, vowels. I'm so sorry. I've gone down at... Jeffrey's just taken me out for a poo, so you can imagine.
He's just taken you out.
Yeah, I think I might have got that the wrong way around as well.
Oh, you're sounding frisky.
I'm like a little lamb. Because 12 minutes ago, I was in REM sleep. I was fully unconscious. I didn't mean to be, but I was fully fast asleep and having a very, very vivid dream from which I woke. And it was an anxiety dream about the podcast.
No, it wasn't.
I couldn't find my microphone.
Your subconscious was trying to wake you up, saying, "Wake up, Lee! You've got to talk to Simon now. It's your favorite. It's your favorite moment of the week. Wake up, Lee!"
Couldn't find my microphone. Very anxious about it.
Oh no! But you have found your microphone, and here we are talking.
Yeah, it's because both my microphones are always in the same place. So why I would have thought I couldn't find them? Silly.
Isn't one of your microphones a world traveller though?
No, I would say that one of my world travelling, one of my microphones it just lives somewhere else.
Right, but they're in the same place every time. They're not in the same place, literally, as the kids say.
I think it is literally in the same place, because I do keep it in the same part of the room.
Right. I'm a little confused, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I live close to dysentery.
So... here you are, back in the UK.
Nice to be back. It's nice to be back. It's it's different kind of rhythm here. That's for sure.
Yeah.
In fact, it occurred to me yesterday. I had an experience that, and I wonder about your take on it. I was biking to work because that's what I do when I'm here. I bike to work, and there was a guy starting to cross do you call them zebra crossings in this country?
The ones that are black and white stripes, we do indeed call them zebra crossings.
Yeah, pedestrian crossings. And he was wearing a tracksuit. And I slowed down to brake and was smiling. And as he walked, he stared at me. And there's only one way I could look. The only look he seemed to have was confrontation. And then on the way home, different zebra crossing, there were some kids, some boys on their big bikes doing lots of wheelies. And they were kind of close to the zebra crossing. And then some guys went to walk across it. And I stopped for the guys to walk across the zebra crossing. And one of the kids, I reckon 13, maybe 14, maybe 12, dressed uncannily similar to the guy in the morning at the zebra crossing, was doing that same thing where he was looking at me. And it felt like it was a confrontation. And I thought to myself, what a wonderful world. I thought, what is it about? First of all, I'm also a middle-aged dude wearing a dorky helmet I couldn't be less threatening, right, to either of these two human beings. And I just thought, wow, especially the guy in the morning, it must be so tiring. It must be so tiring to be in that way in the world, that every confrontation, probably with men, every interaction with a man is confrontational. And yeah. Oof.
Okay.
I think I was bumping into class stuff, I think, but I'm very curious to hear your thoughts and your understanding of what the hell was going on there.
I'm going to leave class untouched because my experience of aggression from men crosses class boundaries. And also the open display of. What I will say is that I have seen upper middle class, very moneyed and comfortable boys put on the garb of the working classes, and by that I mean behaviours, I don't mean clothing, in order to perform a particular type of masculinity. So there's probably an overlap. It's harder for me to be comfortable talking about it, given that my entire extended family is that working class, not moneyed middle classes, just to be clear. And so I think there is a
It would have been a great name for our podcast, frankly. Midlifing just doesn't do it, but moneyed middle class.
The moneyed middle classes, yeah.
moneyed middle classic, that could have been called.
Yeah, that could have. Yeah, that.
Damn!
Damn,
We
missed it again.
300 episodes ago, we just didn't think through it.
Yeah. So I think there are behaviours that I see that are more ingrained in my psyche, and I feel much less challenged by them because I kind of go, well, it looks like my cousin Neil, or So there's this kind of something familial in it, which makes me less.
It's harder for you to other.
Yeah, exactly, definitely that. But also there's a. Oh wow! I remember being about. Well, my gran was still alive, so I would have been younger than 8. So I would have been 6 or 7.
Yep.
And we were visiting my uncle and my cousins, and they are 2.5 and 5 years older than me. And we would go and see them quite regularly, and they didn't live that far away, maybe half an hour, 40 minutes. And they are, remember that I'm an only child, so I'm, unlike you, I'm not constantly surrounded by siblings and siblings' friends.
You weren't.
Weren't. Yeah. I'm not suggesting you are still. Sorry, no, sorry.
I just call out to my brothers now. They're camped down in the spare room. They've been here 6 months.
Which is like fine for one, but awkward for another, I'm guessing.
Which in real human years is like 30 years, frankly.
In sibling years, 6 months. In sibling years, 6 months is 30 years.
Exactly. Yep.
That's a bit like in parent years, isn't it? It's like, oh, I'm going to stay with my parents for 2 days. Oh, you mean a fortnight? Exactly.
Oh, time's a weird thing.
It is.
Before you continue that, the thing that with the guy in the morning, I reckon if I had not been smart, I mean, it was like I would have just had to flex a muscle and he would have been all in. Like it was so close to, yeah. Mm-hmm. It felt more than performative. It felt kids, it felt more performative. Like, the kid, it felt like,
I understand. And I promise I'll circle back to the zebra crossing. I was sitting on the bonnet of a Capri. So that's a long-nosed Ford sports car.
Show title, please, large language model. Choose that one.
And me and I think it was Neil. May have even told a version of this story before. It feels a bit honed or not honed. It feels familiar. But we're sitting on the bonnet, and this guy goes past. This boy goes past who nods and says Miller, which of course is my name and also my cousin's name. And I was just so taken out of the moment of kind of thinking like, whoa, am I in trouble because somebody's using my last name. That's weird. And there was just this swagger and this confidence. And he would have been like 8, I guess, that just made me go, oh, I really want to be him. And so there's a bit of me also that when I see that kind of behavior, I see those kinds of men, there's still a little, it's very, very, very fine. It's like gossamer thin thread that pulls me towards, I really want to be like that from being little. You know, that sense of that's what being grown up looks like.
Yeah.
It wasn't about being, that's what being a man looks like. That's what being grown up looks like. Sort of hard and that kind of like confident, and you nod upwards rather than nod downwards. You know, when you see someone, you you tip your head up. There's this particular sort of thing.
Gesture,
yeah. Yeah, and this is a very, I think it might work across all of the UK, but it's a very northern thing to say "reet," as in all right, but or reet.
All right.
And or reet, but you wouldn't say or reet. You could just go reet like that, and so basically you can't hear the beginning or the end of that word. No, you don't even have to hit the T, Simon. It's just reet.
Wow. Imagine that for a person who doesn't have English as a first language, people who do have English as a first language.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But I would hear that, and I remember there was a guy who used to work for my dad called David, and he would say it to me as well, and I didn't know how to, and I loved him. I loved David. I wanted to be David. He was, again, so grown up, so cool. He must have been like 16, 17 when he started working for my dad, and I would have been, again, similar age, 6 or 7. I desperately wanted to be him. He was just so awesome, and he was so kind, and he was so, present.
He's only in his 60s now, David.
Yeah. But he would say, "Really?" And I didn't know what to say and I would also hello, because that was the response, because I knew it was a greeting, and I didn't at that point I didn't know that the response back was "reet." You just echo. Anyway, the point I'm circling to is the class dimension is too difficult for me, because there is still something in there that feels familiar and aspirational about masculinity.
Would you say familiar and
aspirational?
Oh, okay.
Which is a weird thing.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I get that particular kind. Yeah, I think swagger, as you described, and that kind of sense of, this is my world.
Yeah. That was I'm so sorry, Simon. That must have felt. Oh, I'm just sorry that you came back and that was the first.
No, it was more
landing.
Yeah, it was just, I was fascinated just because my thought was, I think, it was just how tiring that must be to constantly be basically on the lookout, like almost, or even in search of. And I think I get the possibility that we inherit, for want of a better word, we inherit kind of cultural, long-held mannerisms or attitudes or habits, I guess. And yet it also makes me think, well, don't we have some choice in how it is that we appear to the world? Like, at what point, this guy who's now, occupying this podcast, at some point in his life, there was some, where there are some opportunities for him to go, I could just smile at that guy. I could take the tension down a notch. I could defuse the situation. I mean, there was nothing, like the risk was so low in that case. But boy, if I'd just given them a finger and said wanker, I mean, he would have, there's, it's like a tinderbox, basically, is what it felt like. But yeah, I guess maybe I'm thinking here about, like, what choices do we have to be the way we are?
Choices, that's a really hard one, isn't it? Because, this is such a kind of I feel like we've lifted up a rock and there's just stuff under here that is so wriggly and so...
Should we just put the rock back
Well,
and pretend
I
it
don't know.
never got moved?
I don't know, because it's so interesting. It is such an interesting thing, and there is, you know, I've... This is one of the first times I think that I am traffic in the conversations that... Well, it's not one of the first times, but it feels very strongly that I am traffic. I'm not in traffic in this conversation. No, that's right. That's right. Yes, I am traffic. That's right. I got it
You're
right.
not in traffic, you are traffic.
I'm not exactly, because I feel implicated down to my bones in this conversation. Go on.
No. Well, just to say, I don't think this is peculiar to the UK. Definitely in New Zealand as a kid, I remember it for sure, as a boy growing up. And the time I was reminded of most was the experience of being in Naples for 6 weeks, in Napoli. And I'd never felt so much confrontation by so many young boys. And I was, I would have been 50 years old. And so I'd be walking in line and boys would walk into my line in order to make me walk out of it. Like there was an edge there, amazing edge. But yesterday felt more familiar from, in a New Zealand sense, the kind of, that there was, in Naples it felt more like a test and a playful test, but there was edge. But yesterday felt like it was simmering. So, yeah.
No, I don't. I know that I don't have the privilege of this body for much longer. Because it will read as older quite quickly, I think. I'm in that period of my life where I know that the good work I laid down in my 30s and 40s to keep it up to snuff is just going to be unravelled by gravity and time. There's nothing I can do about it, and that's fine. There's something quite lovely about it. I know I will always have a certain mass, because I look at my dad, and my dad is still built. He's still a solid man.
Yeah. Just keep doing squats. Whatever you do, just keep doing squats.
Keep doing squats.
Yeah.
I just did one then. So yes, I think there's the privilege that I hold in my body is something that makes it difficult to get beyond thing. And then again, another thing that I think this was almost certainly on Instagram earlier on in the week, or YouTube, or one of those short form nonsense bullshit things that I watch and that you're far too sensible to pay attention to. There was a guy interviewing a woman. It was a clip from something a long time ago. So it was one of those, oh gosh, I can't remember what they used to be called. Those magazine shows that used to be on in the 80s and 90s. They were aimed at kids, aimed at kind of, I can't remember.
TV shows.
The Rough Guide 2. So there's a program, TV show, but there's a thing called the Rough Guide, which would be like they'd go to Bangkok and then they'd interview people, and then there'd be a thing about fashion.
I think I remember. Yeah. I don't. Maybe we had a version of that anyway. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's lots of them, but it was that kind of a show. I don't think it was the Rough Guide, but it was that kind of a show, and a guy asked a question about to a young woman, what would you do if all the men were to disappear tomorrow? And she said, it would be just brilliant. I'd just be able to breathe easy. And then he said, but who would protect you? And she said, what would I need protecting from anymore?
Well, hang on, was this from, how long ago this wasn't from the 80s or 90s, this was recent, right?
No, it looked like it was something that it certainly wasn't recent. It looked 90s, maybe 2000s.
Wow.
But it was that kind of a show.
Yeah.
And just that, what would you do if the men disappeared tomorrow? I'd breathe a sigh of relief. Who would protect you? What would I need protecting from? And that just was one of those like, fucking hell. So I suppose this is and this is not intended to school you in any way, Simon. This is not where I'm going.
Happy to be schooled.
But that's not what I'm doing. What I'm reflecting, it's kind of, I'm just reflecting that, wow, imagine what that feels like in a body that can experience such cruelty and violence from men, that hasn't that doesn't, just doesn't have the same physical capacity to resist. Oh.
Yeah, wow, that's just seen another little wriggly thing under that rock.
Yeah, but it feels like these are all bedfellows. Those wrigglers, they all live in that same uninterrogated, just put it under the rock place, because we hang around with performers and dancers, and we go to lovely communes and co-ops, and we deal with, in most of our life, we deal with the softest people that we can find. That's who we've chosen to be, Simon. That's who we've chosen to live with.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the use of words soft and hard, and that, that kind of context, isn't it? But I think it's hard to make the comparison with with women and their experiences. Say on the receiving end of power. I'm reminded of last weekend. Just last weekend. Those articles, definite or otherwise, they really trip me up. They trip me up in English, and boy, do they trip me up in that other language I try to speak. We're on a bus going into the sort of the belly of Sardinia, so northeast of where our apartment is, and there was a guy sitting across from us who, as we got onto the bus, he said, "Oh, prego," as in after you. And I thought it was nice. I wasn't expecting that from you. And I had a little checked myself. Oh, what was it that I saw in him that made me think that was surprising that he said after you? And he sat across from us, so effectively the same row, but on the other side of the bus, and started, I guess, TikTok, watching TikTok with the volume up. And I said to Lola, I'm going to go and get out of here, because that's just going to irritate the hell out of me, having someone just playing that kind of, it's not even music, it's like jick, jick, it's that kind of constant shifting in sound. But by that point, he'd already established himself across two seats, not unlike you'd expect a toddler to fall asleep. The way toddlers kind of just land across furniture. He was a little bit like that, and he had his hand on his dick and balls, kind of just moving them around. And it was kind of an extraordinary, a bravado performance, really, or a performance of bravado, perhaps. And I went and had a sleep, and I was sort of sitting behind him, and then I saw through the cracks in the between the seats, the gap between the seats, that he was also looking at kind of blonde women on his phone, and then zooming in on their breasts. And that was this extraordinary, I'll just call it open air performance across from Lil, 50-year-old Lil, who was amazing, actually, her capacity to tolerate, just to sort of stay in her own mat, as it were. She didn't have a mat in the bus, just to be clear. I'm using the word mat metaphorically. And there's just something about that occupation of space and ownership of space and ownership of, I can do anything I want in this world, that seems to have something in relationship to the conversation we're having.
Yeah.
It's the softness, the opposite of softness, basically. I was saying to another colleague, and I was telling the story to her, and I was saying, you know what, I can make those, I guess I'll call them liberal arguments, the kinds of arguments that were I remember in the 80s and 90s, and just hearing those arguments and also believing them and agreeing with them. And I think I still do, really, which is, the ways in which people are effectively I guess, products of particular cultures and the ways in which systemically are let down by government, by culture, all sorts of things, or left behind, and that there's some kind of responsibility for, I think, particularly for government to really to take care of as many of its people as it possibly can. And I really, I sort of see those as that a kind of I think of that as a kind of liberal, and I don't mean that in any negative sense of the word either. I mean that as a sort of sense of our role, or a governmental role, is to take care. And yet I also thought, what a dick. Like, couldn't he just not be a dick?
Yeah, but we're allowed to be complicated, and we're allowed to have two responses. We're allowed to have our individual response where we go, what the fuck are you looking at? But we're also allowed to go, oh, Jesus, what has gotten him to this place where this is his response? Because it's not my response. It's not how I am in the world. I'm not looking at people going, what are you fucking looking at? If people are looking at me, I'm usually smiling back because I assume I know them because they're looking at me. Or I'm just,
They're definitely not a threat.
No. Except when they are.
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely threatened. I was definitely being threatened. No question I was being threatened. And by the kid. By the kid in the afternoon.
Well, of course. I mean, because we are all also animal brains. Jeff last night was walking past a dog. No, we were walking with a dog that he's known all her life. And she's about 4 or 5 now. And they're not best friends. Jeff is not really best friends with very many people except me, Bob, and a dog called Poppy. Yep. Oh, and another dog called Bob, curiously enough, that he really loves. Don't know why.
Maybe probably just the name.
It might just be, it just got confused. It's like, oh, it's funny, Bob looks different today. She's littler and she's got 4 legs, but I still love her. Also, she's a boy. Brilliant.
Finally, her name makes sense.
So this dog that he's known, and sees every other day, decided that she was going to, snip at his nose. She just, went, get away from me. You're being a dick today.
Oh.
Which is unusual for her. And he just went, not having that, and just really barked in her face, properly, fuck off, you are an asshole. And it's, he felt threatened in that moment, despite the fact that he knows the dog. They've got no beef with one another. She's littler, she's a spaniel. And he still he felt he had to make a response. Yeah. But the difference is that it was gone after the barking, and then they just carried on walking with one another. The correction was swift. But of course you felt threatened because you're an animal.
Yes, what's that thing about humans are basically just sophisticated animals, and then you go, well, not that sophisticated actually.
Exactly. We're not that sophisticated.
Sophisticated bees, I think. Oh, I can't remember. Something like that. Anyway, it was,
Animals with sophisticated knees?
No.
Oh, needs.
Bees, as in...
They're animals with sophisticated bees.
No.
I'm so confused. They're not as sophisticated
as
bees.
Basically sophisticated bees.
Sophisticated bees. Okay, so I'm so sorry. Now that makes sense. Because I was thinking, animals with sophisticated knees, well, they bend forwards and backwards. But Jeffries do as well, so they're not that sophisticated.
It's a frustrating joint, actually. It only goes one way, and then when it gets broken, it really does get broken. It's just not, it doesn't heal very well.
It's not a hip, is it?
They're great, exactly. It's a hinge joint. It's a hinge joint, which is and as soon as you have problems,
a joint that's anchored by one point of bone, everything else just floaty muscle. Fucking hell,
ball and socket, baby.
Yeah, all the way.
See ya.
Bye.